Welcome to the Teach.Lead.Innovate podcast, where we dive deep into the heart of innovation, leadership, and transformative ideas shaping the future of education and technology. Each episode is a journey into the minds of visionary educators, thinkers, and leaders who are not just talking about change, they're living it. Real people leading real change. This is where passion meets practice and ideas come to life. Welcome to the Teach.Lead.Innovate podcast. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Teach.Lead.Innovate podcast. I am so excited to welcome to the show today, Charlotte Robey. Charlotte was a teacher of 10 years across London schools and moved to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia last August. She is starting her first Headship next year. Her priorities are leading with emotional intelligence, empowering staff voice, in contrast to a bypass model of leadership, underpinned by coaching. Values are about creating spaces in school, promoting anti-discrimination and allyship through the power of usualizing and conscious language. Welcome to the Teach.Lead.Innovate podcast, Charlotte.
Hi, Dave. Morning. Oh, thanks so much. That is such a nice intro. I've never heard anybody summarize who I am before, and I sound like Jane Fonda, so that's a great thing in the morning.
Absolutely. And what I love is that you're in the morning and I'm still in the evening the day before, so it's just so cool. We are time traveling. I'm literally the day before. That's what I think is so cool about connecting via this space too. So Charlotte, can you share a bit about your journey as a teacher in London and what motivated you to move to Kuala Lumpur?
Yeah, absolutely. It was interesting. When I was growing up and I was in school, I thought that teachers were those people who just asked you to do your homework and just were there to kind of make you have a bad time. And I always thought, I'm not going to do that. But I didn't know what I was going to do. And then a teacher actually said to me, do you know what? You could do this. And it kind of stuck. And I was doing my training in London before I knew it. And I was really lucky because my dad lives in London. So there were some really nice connections there. I didn't have to, move halfway across the country. And there were some great schools around. So I started my journey at really impoverished schools in South London, which was really powerful. It was a really great way to start. It was really challenging at times. You've got a massive socio-economic cohort breadth of kids. We had some refugee kids. We had kids who came in after having no education. We had kids come in who were really, really supported by their parents who spoke fluent English, etc. So, and everybody was just doing their best. So that was a great way to start. And that really set the foundation for how I wanted to teach, which was giving everybody, including staff, as much access as possible. And so fast forward through a couple of London schools, and my last London school was this sweet little school that used to be a laundrette in Southwest, and it was full of the most wonderfully wacky and warm people, and I became a senior leader there, and I was there for 5 years. Started to get itchy feet. The kind of economic system or the economic stuff happening in London wasn't great, and so my partner and I kind of made a joke to each other and said, why don't we get out of here? And it was a joke, and then it kind of stuck. And about a year later, I am in Kuala Lumpur looking over at my lovely pool on the 19th floor of a beautiful condo. Have been working as a deputy head, flew my partner and my dog over, and we've got some pretty serious roots. We're really loving it.
That's a great story right there. So what have been some of the most significant differences you've noticed between the education systems in England and Malaysia?
I think I actually thought that there would be more significant differences. Now, I'm working in an international school, so there is a big difference between national schooling here in Malaysia and international schooling, and I can't really speak to the former. But I think working with such a high proportion of EAL, English as an additional language children back in the UK really set me up for kind of success, but also helped me with my expectations here because, of course, you've got a real breadth of fluency. And so actually that was something that I thought would be a little bit more different, but there's lots of things set up that's really supportive. Obviously it's school dependent, but so in terms of differences, I think cultural differences is a real thing. Looking at
Sure.
the kind of understanding of what high quality education is in the UK system and then in the Malaysian system. In Asia, there's that real big test scores have to be sky high. You've got to kind of head down, get to work, and I'm generalizing completely, and that's not the case with lots of families here. Particularly when they choose international schooling, they know that the model's a little bit different, but it seeps in. And I am one for, if the child is happy, if the child is confident, if you're actualizing them, if you're facilitating their potential, then the test results will come. Whereas actually it's a bit more work backwards here of, look, these tests are at this point. And I know it's SATS week currently in the UK at the moment. So some state school teachers in the UK might know what I'm talking about here, but it's all about working backwards toward that end goal.
That's really interesting. I mean, especially the focus on testing, because in the United States we still have that going back to 2001 with No Child Left Behind. So there's even some similarities there with the United States. So you're about to start your first headship next year. What excites you the most about this new role?
Oh my gosh, hearing you say it out loud is nuts. I mean, when I came out here, I was like, great, gonna be a deputy head, gonna, see what happens, start a new life. And then an opportunity arose and I'm gonna be a head teacher. Oh my goodness. So very excited, not daunted at all. My imposter syndrome is not knocking on the back door at all. But no, I'm really excited. Just the idea of being able to lead and embed a culture that is completely driven by everybody around me, but ultimately me. And I'm the person who, I get to do the stamping. I get to be the person who goes, yeah, that's a go. No, actually, let's think about something else. Let's have a conversation about it. And as you were saying in my most fabulous introduction, I have had quite a few bypass models of leadership as a young'un. And it's kind of been, at one point I had a folder put on my desk in my third year of teaching going, these are all of your literacy lessons for the whole year. There's your script, teach them. It was a little bit of an extreme version, but you see what I'm saying of people just going, this is my decision, deal with it. And I'm really excited to and it's a new school as well. So, starting with a fresh new load of people, helping them realize how helpful and useful and wonderful they are. And meeting a load of new families and kids too will be amazing.
It sounds like you've already got the right mentality for the job.
I hope so.
That's what it's all about, Charlotte. That's what it's all about. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm speaking to a veteran principal, so I can take all of your wisdom too, right?
Absolutely. And that's the key is, you've got the right idea. It's about empowering staff. It's about bringing those families, taking care of those kids. Like, you get to create that culture. You get to do that. I think that's the most amazing part about being in charge of a school.
Being a teacher is such a hard job. And people go, oh my gosh, but the holidays and all this. Yeah, let's just acknowledge. And I know in the UK it's a bit different. In the US, we're very, very lucky. And we need to acknowledge that, as opposed to being like, no, we do need them, but we're very, very lucky to have them. And being a teacher is such a hard job, and being in the classroom 24/7. You are like a kids' TV presenter. I'm in primary, so, you are an educator, a therapist, a professional hugger. You are on presenting, making 30 different kids access the wisdom coming out of your mouth. So having somebody above you that goes, I believe in you, you can do it. Here's how we could maybe tweak things to get things better. Also, here's a bit of bureaucratic nonsense, but I'm going to at least understand that this is not your priority, but let's do it because it actually has this impact. Sharing the why so that it is a little bit more motivating than just going, do it or find somewhere else to work. I think you've always got to have that understanding.
I think that's key. And it's also what I call the teacher mindset. You can't lose that as you move up. You've got to remember what it's like. You've got to stay connected to the classroom.
100%.
So Charlotte, you talk about empowering. Yes. You talk about empowering staff voice and moving away from a bypass model of leadership. How do you intend to ensure that all staff feel heard and valued in your new role? How do you think you're going to do that?
I think that's like a really big mountain in some ways because everybody is different. Everybody communicates differently and everybody, some people love to be heard all the time. Some people don't like to be heard and you almost need to interpret body language and things and really get to know them as a person to understand if they're struggling or not. And that all takes time and it's all down to relationships. I think making key relationships with your staff that are boundaried, that are professional, that are of the understanding that we're all human and doing our best, but also that you're qualified to do this job and I trust you to do that. I think that's the key. And when you come into a role or at the start of an academic year or whatever the case may be, there are 1,001 different things to do, but ensuring that you're taking the time to ask somebody about their weekend, sure, but also getting to know what their struggles are with work, of course, it's up to them how they share that with you so that you can listen. And then I think that starts with the kind of more formal processes within the school. Like, are you giving them the chance to speak? Is there an appraisal process that's really two-way and that it's not just once a year, it's a bit of a check-in every now and then? Are you having forums for discussion that are open and honest? Are you understanding and looking at your calendar? My God, I think that's such a massive thing. Looking at the tides that flow throughout a school year and go, right, have I accidentally put assessment week at the same time as report deadlines, at the same time as when we're doing parent-teacher conferences? And does that mean that everybody is a zombie walking around? You need to be getting in the classrooms, understanding the culture of the school, understanding what people look like on their best day, but also not on their best day, so that you can figure out if you're contributing to that, if the school is, and making sure that they've got the opportunity to be heard within that too.
You have a wonderful plan there, Charlotte. And I think, you can't overestimate the power of empowering your staff and hearing them and giving them a real voice and not just like when you want it. I'm the kind of person, I don't like yes people around me. I want to hear if I have an idea and it stinks, I want to hear it because we're trying to move the whole school forward, not me. Like I want everyone to win. So that's key. You got it.
Yeah. I read an amazing book called Rebel Ideas. I always say it's by Matt Haig, but it's not by Matt Haig, and I need to look up who it's by. And it's all about not being an echo chamber. And do it. Also, the thinking school is fantastic. I did a course recently with the Child College, and I think I don't know if it was on the roster or not, but it was absolutely brilliant. I'm looking at Rebel Ideas. Ooh, Matthew Said. Matt Haig is a brilliant fiction writer. Matthew Said wrote Rebel Ideas, and it's all about being a critical ally. And it talks about it's not about teaching, it's just about in business, in life. It talks about how different perspectives, different cultures, different experiences come together and make something fantastic. And it goes through a load of case studies that really proves the point. But I've really taken that idea of being a critical ally, taking away the function and the person and going, right, none of this is personal. I'm not criticizing you as a principal. I'm criticizing in an allied way. I am giving you an alternative perspective that I actually think might be better in some ways, but let's discuss it, as opposed to an echo chamber of, aha, yeah, everything you say is wonderful. Because at the end of the day, you've got little sweet angels and their families to work with and help.
You're right. I wrote that down. I need to read that book.
It's so good. It's so good.
So what I also like is that you said coaching is a key component of your leadership philosophy. How do you plan to integrate coaching into your daily routines and your interactions with your team?
I was really hoping this was coming up because it's something I'm very new with in terms of my leadership style. I think I was in mental mode a lot of the time. And actually, a course I did recently again was about using coaching to anchor those difficult conversations or to help people be more reflective. And I think that's something I really want to encourage in everybody that works within, my scope, and want to model that myself of being a reflective practitioner. And I think coaching's a really great way to do that. I often, because I'm an enthusiastic kind of gal, go into, well, have you tried this? Oh my gosh, why don't we plan together? And then I'll come and help you teach this and let's see what happens. Oh my gosh, shall we do this? I saw this happen in this amazing place, blah, 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 blah. And I just, and that can make for a great conversation, especially if you've got somebody going, I just don't understand this, or, actually, I'm trying to get this to work a bit more, but I've just tried so many things. Do you have any ideas? That's when mentoring's amazing. But they know the kids better than anyone else in the school. And so if you can have a conversation that you're asking the right questions to bring it out of them instead of you imparting your knowledge, that's something I'm really trying to kind of rewire my brain for in those conversations of maybe it's an observation feedback session, or maybe it's within an appraisal, or maybe it's just we've suddenly started chatting about, I don't know, some new pedagogical idea in the office, which I like to think happens more often than it does. But, having people give their own opinions on what they think will work. And then the tools, like reflecting on the tools they have at their disposal, the resources. Do they need support from you in order to do that? So I think that's a really powerful thing. And I'm really trying to incorporate that more. But it's a habit that I need to rewire and kind of retrain myself to do.
And I think embarking upon that coaching mindset is also going to help further those relationships, and your teachers are going to want to come to you to try things. It's just going to be, it's a win-win. I think it really is a different sort of mode of leadership. It's not that traditional hierarchy and you're the teacher, that's not what it is. And I think that's so powerful. And I'd love to see even more leaders begin to adopt that philosophy. Can you elaborate on the concept of usualizing and how it helps promote anti-discrimination allyship in schools?
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite thing to speak about. I think, and again, I will give so much credit to the previous school I worked in Southwest London, which is the Roach School. I don't know if I'm allowed to name it or not, but I'm going to. It's the Roach School in Southwest London. And I was given a lot of trust in that role. And a big piece of work I did with the head of equality, diversity, and inclusion was to redo the curriculum, basically, or relook at the curriculum and the opportunities there were for looking at protected characteristics and how those are represented across the curriculum and if they are utilized or not. Are we looking at people with disabilities in literature and they're the victims and life's just really hard? And don't get me wrong, there are struggles within every sort of marginalized group. But are we seeing people as active participants in history, in literature, in science? Are we showing that as the usual? Or are we going, oh my goodness, did you know that this person has Down syndrome and they've been able to do this? How marvelous. As opposed to going, yeah, this person's got Down syndrome. They've been able to do this. I think it's about the way you share information and share things with children. It started off by looking at history and the history curriculum because our EDI lead set up something with a social enterprise called the Black Curriculum, and basically looked at how whitewashed a lot of the British history curriculum is. And a lot of the resources out there focus on that whitewashed kind of narrative. And we, especially in London, but across the UK, we have a beautiful, diverse, cultural kind of capital. And we are not showing belonging in the classroom to everybody that's in there if we're just going, yeah, this is how amazing Queen Victoria was. She did it. And don't get me wrong, she did some great stuff, but she also did some that great stuff. And, you know, when we're doing Romans, for example, when I was looking into this, I was learning history myself, and I'm in my 30s. You know, our first ever biracial nation was on Hadrian's Wall in thousands and thousands of years ago. And they were a part of the Aurelian Wars. And I'm a bit of a nerd about it, so I could probably go on for a long time. But I just find it wild that those things were concealed from our children. And so with all of that subject knowledge, anchored by our teachers feeling empowered to speak about and speak to certain things, and look at the curriculum in a way that goes, again, am I being an echo chamber, or am I critically consuming what I'm teaching? But are they critically consuming what I'm teaching them? Am I giving them the voice to say why? Then they can respond, and we can have this beautiful dialogue where people have more of a social awareness, and then they organically become allies to marginalized groups because they understand a lot more about life and what the world actually looks like beyond the bubble that they live in.
I'm happy to say that in our country, the United States, such a real reflection and dedication to looking at, especially the history curriculum, is going on as well. In the United States, it's sometimes difficult because sometimes we do 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, I feel like.
Sure.
And perhaps that's with other countries too, but I think it's about time we start looking. And the United States, it's, when I grew up, it was a narrative of, it was George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, and they were great leaders, but there's so many more. There's so much more to that than just those leaders. So I'm happy that it's sort of taking off around the globe, because I think it's giving voice to marginalized people.
Definitely. And, I say this understanding my own privilege as a white person, and I think it's really important to acknowledge your own privileges within that. And I'd like to be able to speak a little bit more to the landscape of what the UK in general is doing. I think looking at social enterprises and like the Black Curriculum who are trying to support schools is amazing. I don't think it's currently coming from the government. We had a reveal yesterday of the new sex and relationship education bill, and it's not looking great. I won't get into it massively, also because I haven't looked into it fully. But looking at it from the surface level, our government has some work to do, and maybe sometimes it's like you said, 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But in terms of being a head teacher, which I'm really excited about, you have the say. You're not going against what the government's asking you to do. You're just expanding on it and enriching it, which everybody should be doing in their own right.
I agree completely. You're right. So, Charlotte, how do you, we're going to transition a little bit. How do you balance your professional responsibilities, everything that you do, with personal well-being and self-care? Are you doing that?
Yeah. I am. Oh my goodness. And it's been a lot easier since I came to KL. I mean, like I said, I'm looking out the window and there's a beautiful pool down there. And,
Right.
I think, again, teaching is one of those professions where you've got little ones that the decisions you make impact. And so it's really easy to take that home with you. And I think if you went into teaching for the right reasons, most of the time you do take it home with you because you care a lot. And I don't think you can really do the job properly, or I don't think you stay in the job unless you really care a lot, because there's not a lot of nonsense around it. But I am becoming better at kind of switching off. And I think it's about the inner voice as well of going, that can wait. That can wait. Yes, I can have a lunch break. Yes, I can have this. And yeah, being able to say, yeah, I'm going to take my dog for a lovely walk. Yeah, I'm going to prioritize spending time with my partner. Yeah, I'm going to prioritize, my own self-care, which is swimming. And I've got swim headphones. They're the best thing in the world.
Wow.
And so I listen to podcasts whilst I'm swimming. It's everything. So
It's amazing.
that kind of stuff. Honestly, they're brilliant. They're so good. So I think it's about that and being able to say, actually, I'm at capacity. That's something I have really learned to do when I was younger and I had such aspirations for leadership. I was just saying yes to everything in the hopes that it would kind of build my reputation as someone who could do and was very reliable at doing. And I'm not regretful for any of those things because I am where I am now, perhaps because of them. But I think having the boundaried and self-respect to say, I can't do that. And
You're right.
I would love to do that. It's about having those phrases. I think one that I love so much is saying, I can absolutely put that onto my to-do list today, but I've actually got these other things. But what would you like me to prioritize? Throws it back onto the other person so that you're not saying you won't do
I like
it.
that.
Right. I've got some scripts in my head when I need them. I think it's good to rely on those things.
I think that's where a lot of us go wrong. And I'm glad to hear that you have a system, but I think a lot of educators don't have a system for self-care. It is so easy to get burned out and to say yes, yes, yes. But I think it's just like you, I think it's important to set healthy boundaries because when you're taking care of yourself, then you're going to be able to take care of others. But I think we have that challenge in the United States, and it's definitely not isolated to the United States. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely not. And it's a bit like the bypass model of leadership that I was talking about before, when people just go, you're doing it. It doesn't give people the opportunity to say no. And there are other pressures, it's not, I can't speak to where that was coming from for them. Ofsted in the UK, they say that through gritted teeth, but the inspectorate bodies and things, it's a tough one.
For sure. So Charlotte, you have a significant following on Instagram. What do you love about the platform and just social media in general?
Oh, it's such a wonderful thing. I started Tales from the Classroom long time ago, and I started it because it really motivated me to make learning like a lot more exciting and put lots of dynamic elements into it, because I was seeing people doing that on Instagram and I was going, oh yeah, I'm going to do that in my lesson. I'm going to do that too. And then I started sharing that on Instagram, and I found that the more that I did that, the more I wanted to make lessons dynamic. And don't get me wrong, I wanted to do that for the kids all the time. But like we said, sometimes you've got to prioritize and go, actually, that grammar lesson can be a little bit more formulaic. But anyway, so it was maybe contributing to my burnout a little bit, but it was really motivating. And then it kind of grew beyond teaching, especially when I went into leadership. And then when the lovely, wonderful lockdown came down, thank you, coronavirus, I kind of stopped. I was like, no one needs that. No one, and obviously there's a lot less content to share. But then when I moved to Malaysia, I thought, well, this is a great way to share with my family, share with my friends what's going on. I can't be sending 12-minute voice notes every day, although I do love a long voice note, as my friends will attest to. And so showing people what I was getting up to. And then I started to get quite a good following in Malaysia. I had a person come up to me, wild, at a conference. And they said, "Oh, I recognize you from somewhere. Did you, work at this school, that school, blah, 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 blah." And I could not place them. I was just like, "No, but how lovely to meet you. Like, let's connect." And then a couple of weeks later, they got in touch on Instagram. They were like, "It's you." It's like, no, stop it. No one recognizes a random teacher person on Instagram. That's ridiculous. But it's happened. And then I was at a bar and this drunk guy came up to me and was like, "You're the chick that records stuff in your car when you're stuck in traffic." And he was absolutely loaded and was like, "You're like David Beckham." And honestly, I've never felt more ridiculous in my life. I was like, I'm definitely not David Beckham. But yeah, hilarious. I know. So I share stuff beyond teaching now. But yeah, I walked away feeling very fancy. But I think there's such a small world of teaching Instagram in Malaysia, so I might have tapped into a little bit of a niche. So I saw quite a bit of growth when I came out here.
That's amazing. You're like a local celebrity.
My gosh, I don't think.
So, Charlotte, how can our listeners get in contact with you, follow your work, any other platforms besides Instagram? And I heard you're also considering starting your own podcast.
Yes. Oh my gosh, my sister would murder me if I didn't say anything. But my sister and I are starting a podcast about activism and celebrity work around that. So, about Taylor Swift's new album has just come out. It's amazing. She's dating this person, she's dating that person, but what actually has she done for the world that's really good? And she and I are putting that together, and it's called A-List Activists. And that's going to be coming really soon. We're really excited. But other than that, I am Tales from the Classroom on Instagram. And I love people getting in contact there, especially if they're sharing travel recommendations. That's never a bad thing. I share about literature, what's going on in Malaysia, my philosophy about leadership, and how that parallels good classroom practice. So yeah, I'd love to see some more people.
There you have it. And I'll make sure that I put that in the video so everybody will know. It's Tales from the Classroom.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlotte. It's been such a pleasure to have you on the show today. I wish you nothing but success in your first Headship and all of your future endeavors. And I can't wait to see the great things you will continue to accomplish. And I can't wait to listen to your podcast.
Hi, thank you so much, Dave. It's been so nice to chat this morning. And yeah, I'll definitely be chatting with you later, I'm sure, to get all of your wisdom on not only Headship, but podcast too. So thanks so much.
You're very welcome. All right, everyone. Until we meet again, stay inspired, stay positive, and have the best day ever.